The strange part is that it usually begins the moment you finally try to rest, not while you're walking around, not while you're distracted during the day, but the second your body touches the bed, something suddenly feels different. Your chest feels slightly tighter, your body becomes unusually aware of itself, and your mind starts feeling strangely alert for no clear reason. You try adjusting your position, hoping the feeling will pass naturally, but something still feels subtly wrong inside your body, almost like your system refuses to completely power down at night. Some people describe it as an invisible tension they cannot explain. Others feel a strange internal pressure that makes relaxation feel impossible. And the more silent the room becomes, the more noticeable the sensation feels, as if your body is quietly reacting to something before you even fall asleep. Most people assume this is simply part of getting older after 60. They blame stress, aging, or an overactive mind. But here's what makes this so confusing. Many people feel completely exhausted before bed, yet the moment they lie down, their body behaves as if it needs to stay awake. And recent sleep research suggests there may be a hidden reason for this pattern, because one common evening habit may be quietly raising stress hormones at night without most people realizing it. Some nights begin normally. You get into bed feeling genuinely tired. Your eyes feel heavy from the entire day. Your body seems ready to finally rest. But within minutes, something begins to shift internally. A strange discomfort slowly starts building for no obvious reason, and suddenly your body no longer feels completely comfortable lying still, almost like your nervous system quietly changes the atmosphere inside you. You turn onto one side, hoping the sensation disappears naturally. For a few moments, the position feels slightly better. Then the pressure slowly returns again. Your chest feels oddly tense without actual pain. Your breathing starts feeling just different enough to notice, not severe enough to panic you, but strange enough that your body keeps paying attention to it. And this is where the night often becomes exhausting. Some people feel a strange pressure inside the upper body at night. Others notice subtle discomfort in the shoulders, neck, or ribs. Many suddenly become hyper-aware of their heartbeat in silence, not because the heart is failing, but because the body becomes unusually sensitive after lying down. And once your attention locks on to those sensations, relaxing becomes harder. Your body begins checking itself repeatedly without you realizing it, as if something deep inside refuses to fully let go of alertness. Then there are the nights when your legs feel impossible to settle. You move them slightly, hoping to find relief, but minutes later, the sensation returns again. Some describe it as internal restlessness. Others say it feels like hidden tension moving through the body. And the strange part is that these feelings often appear only at night. During the day, everything may feel completely manageable, but the second the room gets quiet, the body reacts differently. Even your thoughts start behaving in unusual ways after lying down. Small worries suddenly feel mentally louder in the dark. Your brain begins replaying random thoughts from earlier in the day. Tiny sensations become impossible to ignore. You notice your breathing more. You notice your heartbeat more. You notice every small movement your body makes against the mattress. And most people never realize how deeply this affects sleep quality over time. Then, eventually, exhaustion wins and you finally fall asleep. But the sleep often feels strangely light and incomplete. You wake up feeling mentally foggy instead of restored. Your body feels like it stayed partially alert all night long. And when you think about it carefully, you've probably adjusted your sleeping position countless times without noticing. Tiny movements, tiny corrections. And there may be a hidden biological reason your body keeps doing this night after night. And this is where the entire experience starts becoming deeply confusing, because the body does not react the same way every night. One position may feel perfectly comfortable today, then strangely uncomfortable tomorrow. Some nights your body settles faster on the left side.
Other nights, that same position suddenly feels wrong almost immediately, and the inconsistency makes people believe the problem cannot possibly have a real explanation, but the body rarely creates repeated patterns without a reason. For some people, moving slightly brings temporary relief almost instantly. Their breathing feels calmer for a few minutes. The pressure inside the chest seems to ease slightly. The nervous tension softens just enough to notice. But then the sensation slowly returns again under the surface. Others experience the exact opposite reaction after moving. The moment they change position, their body becomes even more alert, almost like their system interprets movement itself as a warning signal. This is why so many adults over 60 feel trapped in contradiction at night. Nothing behaves consistently long enough to make sense. One evening feels relatively manageable and peaceful. The next night feels physically impossible to settle into. Sometimes exhaustion knocks you out quickly. Other nights, your body feels strangely awake despite feeling tired all day. And because the symptoms constantly shift, most people stop trying to understand them logically. They assume their sleep is simply becoming unpredictable with age. But here's what makes this pattern so important to pay attention to. Random problems usually create random reactions, yet your body keeps repeating the same nighttime behaviors over and over. The turning, the repositioning, the sudden alertness after lying down, the feeling that your body never fully relaxes into deep rest. And those repeated signals often point towards something happening beneath conscious awareness.
Think about how often your body reacts before your mind fully notices it. You shift positions automatically without thinking. You take deeper breaths without realizing why. You unconsciously search for a position that feels safer internally. And most people never stop long enough to question why the body keeps doing this, because the symptoms themselves become the distraction. People focus on the discomfort instead of the pattern behind the discomfort, and that's usually where the real answer stays hidden. The difficult part is that most people are looking in the wrong direction entirely. They blame stress alone. They blame anxiety alone. They blame aging alone. But the body may actually be reacting to a much more specific nighttime imbalance, something subtle that quietly changes the way the nervous system behaves after lying down. And once that hidden reaction begins, the body can start sending signals throughout the entire night without you realizing what triggered them in the first place. I'm Dr. William Harris, a sleep specialist, and over the years I started noticing a strange pattern in adults over 60. Many of them arrived convinced they had a severe sleep disorder. Others believed anxiety alone was keeping them awake at night. Some thought their body was simply declining with age. But after listening carefully to hundreds of nighttime experiences, a different pattern slowly began to emerge. Because many of these people were not struggling with sleep itself, they were struggling with what happened to the body right before sleep began. The symptoms sounded different from person to person at first. One described chest pressure after lying down. Another described an unexplained urge to constantly reposition at night. Others talked about feeling physically tired but mentally alert the moment the lights went off. Some even described a strange sensation of internal vigilance they could never fully explain. And despite the different descriptions, the same biological sequence kept appearing repeatedly underneath the surface. The body would enter bed exhausted, but then something subtle would interrupt the transition into deeper relaxation. And once that interruption started, the entire night often changed with it. What surprised me most was how consistently the body reacted before the mind did. Many people assumed their thoughts were causing the problem, but in many cases, the body showed signs of alertness first. Tiny changes in breathing, tiny muscle tension shifts, tiny unconscious body adjustments happening again and again throughout the night,
almost like the nervous system was quietly monitoring something in the background, and most people had no idea their body was even doing it. Over time, I realized this pattern became far more common after 60, not because people suddenly became weak sleepers, but because the body becomes much more sensitive to subtle nighttime imbalances with age. Small internal stress signals that once went unnoticed can start creating powerful reactions after lying down. And when the nervous system interprets those signals incorrectly, sleep can quietly become fragmented night after night, even in people who feel completely exhausted before bed. This is why so many adults say they feel tired all day, but strangely restless at night. And the explanation behind that contradiction is far more physical than most people realize. Once you begin recognizing the pattern, it starts appearing everywhere. The repeated turning in bed, the sudden awareness of breathing, the feeling that one position works temporarily before becoming uncomfortable again, the strange nighttime alertness that seems to appear out of nowhere. Most people see these as isolated symptoms happening randomly, but they may actually be connected pieces of the same nighttime response. And this is where the entire conversation around sleep after 60 starts changing completely. Because the real issue may not be sleep itself at all. The real issue may begin earlier than most people think, right in the delicate transition between wakefulness and deep nighttime relaxation, the exact moment the body is supposed to feel safe enough to fully let go. And when something interferes with that transition, the nervous system can begin reacting in ways that seem mysterious from the outside. That's why so many people keep searching for answers while focusing on the wrong symptoms, because the body is often responding to a hidden trigger that most adults never think to question before bed. This isn't random, and your body is not malfunctioning during the night. Even though the sensations may feel unpredictable, the nervous system rarely reacts without a reason, especially after the age of 60, when the body becomes much more responsive to subtle internal changes. Small shifts in pressure, breathing, temperature, tension, or circulation can suddenly become far more noticeable at night, and your brain quietly starts monitoring those signals while you're trying to fall asleep. Think about how different the body feels once the room becomes silent. During the day, distractions keep your attention occupied constantly. Movement hides discomfort. Noise masks subtle sensations. Your nervous system stays externally focused for hours. But the second you lie down in silence, internal awareness becomes dramatically stronger. Tiny sensations that normally stay in the background suddenly move to the center of attention. And this is where many people unknowingly enter a state of nighttime alertness.
What's even more surprising is how small the trigger can be. Something as simple as an evening habit repeated every night may quietly raise stress hormones before bed. Not enough to fully wake you up, but enough to keep the nervous system slightly activated underneath the surface. And because the reaction feels subtle at first, most people never connect the habit to the sleep problem itself. They only notice the symptoms later, once they are already lying in bed. The chest tension, the restlessness. The body then starts reacting in ways that seem disconnected from the original trigger. Breathing becomes shallower without obvious reason. Muscles stay slightly tense instead of fully relaxing. The heart feels more noticeable against the silence of the room, and your brain begins paying attention to sensations it normally would ignore completely. This creates the strange feeling that something inside the body feels off at night, even though medical tests often show nothing seriously wrong. And this is where the confusion becomes emotionally exhausting for many adults. But the real reason this happens may go even deeper than stress hormones alone, because this reaction often begins before sleep even starts, long before the first awakening during the night, long before the tossing and turning becomes obvious. The nervous system may already be shifting into a subtle protective state the moment you lie down. And once that hidden response begins, the body can start sending signals that quietly shape the entire night without you realizing where they originally came from. What you're feeling is something I call a night mismatch, a subtle state where the body and the nighttime environment stop feeling fully aligned with each other. From the outside, everything may appear completely normal. Your room is quiet, your bed feels familiar, your body feels physically tired from the day. But internally, the nervous system begins detecting small signals that create hidden tension beneath the surface. And most people never realize this shift is happening in real time. Your sleeping position may initially feel perfectly comfortable. For a few moments, your body seems ready to fully relax. Then something changes quietly inside the system. A small pressure signal appears. Breathing feels slightly different. Muscles stop releasing tension completely. Your nervous system begins monitoring the body more carefully without conscious awareness. And suddenly, your body no longer feels deeply settled into rest. This is where the night mismatch begins affecting sleep behavior, because the brain constantly scans the body for signs of safety during the night. And after 60, that scanning process becomes far more sensitive than most people realize. Tiny discomforts that once felt irrelevant can suddenly trigger subtle alertness responses. Not strong enough to fully wake you immediately, but strong enough to prevent deeper relaxation from fully stabilizing. And the body starts reacting long before the conscious mind understands what is happening. That's why so many people describe the sensation as difficult to explain logically. When this hidden mismatch continues for too long, the nervous system can activate something called a body flip signal, a quiet internal response designed to encourage movement and repositioning during the night. Not because the body is malfunctioning and not because something dangerous is necessarily happening, but because the nervous system interprets unresolved discomfort as a reason to stay partially alert. The body begins searching for a position that feels safer internally. You suddenly feel the urge to turn onto your other side or slightly adjust your shoulders, hips, chest, or breathing posture. Most people never consciously notice the body flip signal itself. They only notice the behaviors it creates afterward, the constant repositioning, the repeated awakenings, the strange feeling that no position stays comfortable for long. And because these movements happen so automatically, people rarely question what triggered them in the first place. They assume they are simply restless sleepers. But the body may actually be responding to hidden nighttime stress signals the entire time. And this is where the pattern becomes extremely important to understand, because the body flip signal does not always fully wake you up. Sometimes it creates only tiny interruptions in sleep rhythm, tiny surges of alertness that last only seconds. But when repeated throughout the night, those interruptions slowly fragment deep sleep without you realizing it. The body keeps reacting, the nervous system keeps monitoring, and the exhaustion you feel the next morning may actually begin with signals your body started sending hours before you ever fell asleep. This is why so many people notice strange physical sensations only after lying down at night. During the day, the body often feels relatively normal and manageable, but once the room becomes quiet, subtle symptoms suddenly become impossible to ignore. A mild burning sensation appears in the chest or throat. Pressure develops on one side of the body for no obvious reason. Breathing starts feeling slightly less automatic than it did hours earlier. And the nervous system quietly begins paying attention to every small internal sensation, almost like the body becomes hyper-aware of itself in darkness and stillness. Some people experience a sudden urge to take deeper breaths repeatedly, not because they are unable to breathe, but because the body no longer feels fully settled into automatic relaxation. Others notice subtle tightness around the ribs, shoulders, or upper chest after lying down. The discomfort may not feel severe enough to describe medically, yet it feels noticeable enough that the body keeps reacting to it anyway.
And once attention locks on to those sensations, the nervous system often becomes even more alert. This creates a feedback loop most people never realize is happening.
For others, the discomfort appears lower in the body instead. Pressure in the hips, restlessness in the legs, tension building in the lower back after remaining still too long. The body starts asking for movement before sleep fully stabilizes. You shift once, hoping to feel comfortable again. Then minutes later, the urge to move quietly returns, and the cycle repeats throughout the night without fully revealing its cause. This is one reason the body flip signal can feel so confusing emotionally, because it does not always appear the same way in every person. One body reacts through breathing discomfort, another reacts through pressure sensations, another reacts through restlessness and repeated repositioning. Different symptoms, different experiences, but often the same hidden nighttime response underneath the surface. The important thing to understand is that the body is not creating these reactions randomly. Every signal has a purpose from the nervous system's perspective. The brain constantly evaluates whether the body feels safe enough to enter deeper sleep stages. And when subtle stress signals continue appearing after lying down, the nervous system may hesitate to fully power down for the night. Not consciously, not intentionally, but biologically, the body begins maintaining a low level of internal vigilance, and that quiet vigilance changes the quality of sleep more than most people realize. But this is only part of what's actually happening during the night, because once stress hormones quietly begin rising in the evening, the effects can spread far beyond physical discomfort alone. The brain itself can start resisting deep sleep without obvious awareness. Tiny awakenings become more frequent. Sleep becomes lighter and easier to interrupt. The nervous system remains partially active beneath the surface even while you appear asleep. And once this hidden state begins repeating night after night, the body can slowly become trapped in a pattern most people mistake for normal aging, without ever understanding what originally triggered it. And this is where the cycle quietly starts getting worse night after night, because the harder people try to force themselves to sleep, the more alert the nervous system often becomes. You start monitoring the body too closely. You start searching for the right position to finally feel comfortable. You keep waiting for the moment your body fully relaxes. But instead of letting go naturally, your awareness becomes sharper with every passing minute, and the nervous system begins treating that constant monitoring as another stress signal, which quietly keeps the body trapped in the same loop. Most people don't even realize how automatic these behaviors become over time. You adjust your shoulders slightly, then your hips, then your breathing. You pull the blanket closer. You turn the pillow over, searching for comfort. You check the clock, hoping more time has passed than it actually has. And each small action reinforces the feeling that something still isn't settled inside the body. Then the mental side of the cycle slowly begins building underneath the surface. You start anticipating another difficult night before it even happens. The bed itself begins feeling emotionally associated with frustration and exhaustion. Your body enters the room already expecting resistance. And once expectation combines with physical alertness, sleep becomes even harder to stabilize naturally. Not because you are consciously causing the problem, but because the nervous system starts preparing for another night of interrupted rest, and the body reacts accordingly before sleep even begins. Meanwhile, the hidden nighttime reactions continue happening in the background. Tiny internal alerts activate repeatedly throughout the night. Tiny stress hormone surges briefly interrupt deeper sleep cycles. Tiny awakenings occur so quickly you often never remember them in the morning. But the nervous system remembers every single interruption. The body keeps shifting, the brain keeps scanning, and deep restorative sleep becomes increasingly difficult to maintain consistently. This is why many adults wake up feeling exhausted despite spending hours in bed. Technically, they may have slept through most of the night, but the quality of that sleep was quietly fragmented underneath the surface. The nervous system never fully released its state of low-level vigilance. The body never completely settled into stable recovery mode. And over time, this creates the strange feeling of always being tired but never fully rested. Mental fog increases. Morning energy slowly starts disappearing. And the most frustrating part is that many people never realize their body is doing this all night long. They blame aging, they blame stress, they blame themselves for thinking too much. But the real issue may be happening automatically beneath conscious awareness, a hidden cycle repeating itself over and over while the body tries to protect itself during sleep. And once this invisible loop becomes deeply established, even very small evening habits can begin amplifying the reaction far more than most people would ever suspect. And this is exactly why more people over 60 have quietly started searching for ways to help the body calm this nighttime response naturally. Not by forcing unconsciousness through heavy sedation, and not by shutting the brain down artificially for a few hours. Because many adults eventually realize the problem is not simply falling asleep. The deeper issue is helping the nervous system stop reacting to subtle nighttime stress signals, helping the body reduce the repeated body flip signal during the night, and helping the brain feel safe enough to remain in deeper sleep for longer periods of time, which is a very different goal than simply knocking the body out temporarily.
Some sleep specialists have started paying closer attention to this exact pattern after 60, especially in adults who feel exhausted during the day but unusually alert after lying down. What they noticed is that certain nighttime support approaches may help the body maintain a calmer internal state before sleep begins, not by overpowering the nervous system, but by supporting the body's natural relaxation signals during those sensitive nighttime hours. Because once the nervous system becomes too reactive at night, even small internal discomforts can trigger repeated awakenings without full awareness. And this is where certain evening support formulas started becoming part of the conversation more frequently, particularly those designed to support relaxation without creating heavy morning grogginess afterward. The reason this matters is because many people after 60 are extremely sensitive to anything that makes them feel drugged the next day. They do not want to feel disconnected from their body. They do not want mental fog the following morning. And they do not want the nervous system artificially shut down every night just to sleep. What many people actually want is much simpler than that. They want their body to stop behaving as if nighttime itself is a threat. They want the nervous system to stop reacting to subtle signals that keep interrupting deeper rest. And they want to wake up feeling physically restored instead of emotionally drained. This is why some doctors have started recommending nighttime support methods focused specifically on calming the body's internal stress response before bed, especially methods designed to help the nervous system stay more stable throughout the night, not through force, not through sedation, but by helping the body remain less reactive to the tiny stress signals that quietly build after lying down. Because when those signals decrease, the body flick signal may also begin happening less frequently over time. And for many adults, that can mean fewer unconscious movements, fewer subtle awakenings, and deeper sleep cycles that finally feel restorative again. There's more information about one of the most discussed nighttime support options in the pinned comment below. But if this pattern has been happening to you personally, you are not imagining it. And more importantly, it is not your fault. Your body is not intentionally trying to sabotage your sleep every night. In many cases, it is actually trying to protect you from signals it interprets as stress or instability. The problem is that after 60, the nervous system often becomes much more sensitive to subtle nighttime changes most people never consciously notice. Small shifts in tension, small breathing changes, small internal discomforts that quietly keep the brain from fully letting go during sleep.
And once the night mismatch begins repeating consistently, the body flip signal can slowly become part of the body's automatic nighttime behavior. You reposition without thinking. You partially awaken without remembering it. Your nervous system continues monitoring the body while you sleep, and over time, the exhaustion begins feeling emotionally normal, even though the body never truly recovered overnight. That is why so many adults wake up tired, despite technically spending enough hours in bed, because the issue may have started long before the first awakening ever happened. And what actually triggers a night mismatch in the first place may be far deeper and far more unexpected than most people realize.